Derbyites. Guess what? You have clicked on probably one of the best videos you're going to get this whole Emmy season, which is probably going to end, I don't know, sometime before the second coming. And I'm here with Marcus James Dixon, which means, you know what that means? That means we're talking about guest acting at the Emmys. And I am pretty much jumping out of my skin, Marcus. How do you feel about the whole guest acting categories this year?
Yeah, I'm also jumping out of my skin. I just made a couple updates before we went live here, so I'm excited to tell you who I'm now predicting. Because if you looked at my predictions last week, it's different than today.
Yeah, you are always right on the edge. You're living on the edge. And that's what I really most admire about you. I
That's
think
why I always do so poorly in our
true.
content.
Don't ever follow our predictions. Just go with someone who goes with like the consensus, because they seem to do really well. That's the safe bet. But I don't like being safe. I like being a little bit dangerous. And so I think we should get straight into it, and we should start with drama guest actress, because it's basically two shows only exist. It's one of those categories where they just said, we love The Last of Us, we love Succession, everything else, get out, not interested, right? So the nominees are Storm Reid, Anna Torv, and Melanie Linsky from The Last of Us, and Cherry Jones, Hiam Abbas, and Harriet Walter from Succession. That's a difficult category to lock down, don't you think?
Yes, but I do think there's two front runners, and I think we're both predicting a different one. I have Harriet Walter for Succession. She didn't really show up till the end, and a lot of people at Gold Derby were predicting her to win before she even popped up. And I'm like, come on, let's just wait and see what she does. And then she had the funeral episode was really good, and then she also appeared in the finale, and she was really good, where she was literally like being the mother of teenagers and telling them, quit arguing, quit fighting. So she did enough for me in those two episodes that I did put her at number one. But I do like your pick as well. I don't know if you want to tell everyone who you're predicting.
Drum roll, please. It's Melanie Linsky. And I just feel like when The Last of Us was airing week to week, and it was really buzzy. I mean, do you remember we were all of us in the blogosphere and people on social media were talking about Melanie Linsky and how great she was on that show. I get the Harriet Walter love, because especially in the funeral episode, I mean, she just brings it every time. She's so good as that character, and she's obviously been here before as this at the Emmys. But Melanie Linsky, I felt like she really, really made such an impact on that show, and I feel like I think the Academy or Emmy voters would be really keen to award her, given that she's been nominated before for Yellow Jackets, and yeah, that's where I'm at. But like, what would happen if either of those two frontrunners in our minds weren't the winner? Would you say that there's another lady in this group that you think could be the spoiler?
In third place, I do have Hiam Abbas, and she also was in the funeral episode where she was good, but she was in the earlier episode too, the wake episode right after he died. And she's just so sassy and bitchy, and she's such a fun character. So I guess if I was a voter, maybe I would be voting for her. I mean, Cherry Jones is always good. Anna Torv, come on. Fringe. Who else watched Fringe out there? Storm Reid is great, but I think, what about you? If you were a voter, who would you pick? I would go with Hiam Abbas.
It's a really, really difficult question, because like Cherry Jones is usually the front runner whenever she's nominated, especially for that character. But and Hiam Abbas, I've always loved that character. Like, I wish she had more material, but they really gave her enough in their final season for her to at least warrant attention in this category finally. But I would be voting for Anna Torv.
Oh yeah.
There's three reasons. Number one, it's part of I've signed a contract with the Australian government that I have to always barrack for the Australian. So that's one. Two, Fringe. Always been a fan of hers. She's so good in Fringe. Remember back in the day when we were Fringe band and we used to think, it was the best. And thirdly, I just felt like she was so damn good in the first and second episode. Did she make it to the second episode? I think she did.
I think
Of
so, yeah.
of The Last of Us, particularly, spoiler alert, when she dies. It's a really good one. It's just so impactful the way that she goes by basically, it was the kiss of death by cordyceps, and it's a moment that I can't really get out of my head from that show, and I just would love for her to win. She's won plenty of awards in Australia, because she works in both countries, and I think it's time that the United States catches up to the
Yeah.
brilliance that is Anna Torv. So that's where I'm at on that one.
I agree with you. I'm a Torvi, and if she were to win, I would just die. Harriet Walter, though, she's got the second nomination for Ted Lasso, and I don't think she will win over in that category. So I think if the voter is looking at it that way and saying, I love Harriet Walter, where is she the best? Where do I, if I'm gonna just pick her in one, which one will it be? I think that might give her the edge
Yeah.
for Succession.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let's move on to Guest Actor in a Drama Series.
Wait, can I just mention one thing?
Yeah, of
I think
course.
Betsy Brandt was robbed. If
Yeah.
Betsy Brandt was nominated here for Better Call Saul, I don't know if she could win, but she would be in the conversation for sure. She would be in that top 3.
Yeah, I think she would have made it in any other year when it wasn't so Succession and Last of Us heavy. I think you're right. She's great. So overdue. There's so many actually actors who didn't quite make the cut this year because of the Juggernauts. But that's a real shame. And by the way, I would have nominated Michelle Forbes from Star Trek Picard. She wasn't even on the ballot, so that upsets me.
You loved Fiona Shaw too
I really did, from Andor. Yeah, that's really disappointing to me. Speaking of the two Juggernauts, guess what, Marcus? In the Guest Actor in a Drama Series, same issue. Do you want to maybe read out the nominees for us?
Yes, I would love to. This is the Nick Offerman category.
Correct.
So I'll start with him for The Last of Us, and also his co-star Murray Bartlett is nominated. And then 2 actors from the show that appeared in episode 5, I think 4 and 5,
Yeah.
Lamar Johnson and Kevin Montreal Woodard. And then the other 2 in this category are from Succession, James Cromwell and Ariane Moayed. And I believe everyone and their mother is predicting Nick Offerman. And it's not just because he was so good in this episode, which he was. He has this air about him of never nominated for Parks and Rec. And I think that narrative has been out there for long enough that it's going to influence voters, even if they haven't seen The Last of Us. I could see them voting for him because of just all of the headlines he's been getting since he appeared in this episode.
Yeah, man, like, come on, Nick Offerman. It's time.
Mm-hmm.
What really helps him is that Murray Bartlett won a couple of years ago for the White Lotus, or a year ago, whenever it was. And so that I don't think there's going to be a vote split situation between them, because I think a lot of voters were like, we've given you an award, let's give this one to Nick Offerman, because they're both excellent in that episode. A long, long time. And I love that Lamar and Kayvon double nomination, because that storyline as well was so heartbreaking. And I think Kayvon Montreal Woodard, is he the youngest ever nominee now?
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's so impressive. What an impressive young man. Like, he's got such a career ahead of him. And his parents and his family must be so thrilled for him. So that's awesome. Then you've got James Cromwell. I've heard a lot of people say to me, Rob, don't think this is just a blowout for Nick Offerman. James Cromwell, he is in the running. And I agree, because the speech or the eulogy he gives at the funeral for his brother was just dynamite. And
they love speeches. Remember, James Spader would win over and over and over for those courtroom speeches. And, you're right, we can't be sleeping on him. And it's kind of a similar thing with Harriet Walter. All season long at Gold Derby, people were predicting James Cromwell to win this before the funeral episode. And then after the funeral episode, I'm like, okay, well, now people are proven right, because he was so good in that moment. And if he wins, it would be a great win. But I feel like if Nick Offerman wins, it would be something, very special.
Yeah, for some reason, the Emmys like to give us curveballs, particularly in the guest categories. We always have these ideas about who might win, and and then it never happens. I'm really happy for Ariane Moayed as well. I just love that character, and I think of all the people to choose from Succession to make it in, I'm really glad it was him. He must be so thrilled with this nomination. It's
Yeah.
probably not going to happen for him in terms of winning.
I wish we had more of him this last season. He
Same.
really wasn't in it that much. He didn't have the impact that you really need this season. And that's not his fault. It's the writer's fault for not, giving him much screen time. I also wanted to mention who was snubbed, because you love your Andy Serkis for Andor. He should be here, don't you think?
I was just thinking about that last night because I was writing an article about something else, and yeah, I just thought there's a real missed opportunity. I have no doubt he'd be in the category if this wasn't so Last of Us Succession heavy. That's one of those ones where, even like, Bryan Cranston for not Breaking Bad, for Better Call Saul, could have made it in too, but for Andy Serkis, I just feel like he's always overlooked, especially for all those great motion capture performances. This was an opportunity, and he missed the boat again, and that really upsets me.
Yeah, I thought Brian would get in. I thought Aaron Paul would get in too. And John Grice for The White Lotus. He was only in 3 episodes, so he qualified here. The White Lotus got every single cast member nominated, so it's very surprising that John didn't make it.
Yeah, I totally agree. All right, so let's move on to comedy guest actress. Sorry, 1 second. I'm just pulling it up on my screen. All right, I'll read out the nominees. So we've got 3 from Ted Lasso: Sarah Niles, Harriet Walter, and Becky Ann Baker. And we've got Quinta Brunson from Saturday Night Live. And then we've got Taraji P. Henson from Abbott Elementary, and Judith Light from Poker Face. So at least we have more than 2 shows here. This is a difficult category because I know what you're thinking, and I think, Marcus, why don't you take it? Because I think this is where you're at, is where most people seem to be right now.
I'm predicting Taraji P. Henson, but I'm not confident because, Abbott kind of took a tumble in nominations. No writing and no directing was quite shocking. I don't think anyone really was predicting that to happen. But I mean, a voter looking at this category isn't going to say, oh, Abbott didn't get writing and directing, so I'm not picking Taraji. I think she's strong enough in the episode. She plays Quinta's mother that she could pull it off. And I mean, she's just so beloved in Hollywood. I mean, Empire, come on, how great was that show? But I do love your prediction of Judith Light. I think you could be onto something, especially because Poker Face had the option of getting like 3 or 4 ladies in here, and she's the only one. So that means no vote split from Poker Face. It's all going to go onto Judith. So you could be right.
But here's the thing, Marcus. Like, I'm worried that Poker Face underperformed. Really significantly. I would have expected that show to pretty much take up this whole category. Thankfully, I guess for Judith Light, it didn't. But it didn't get that nomination in comedy series that I was hoping for. And I just feel like it could have really swept the field across the board in terms of how great that show is and how well received it was. And I just feel like, once again, Emmy voters sometimes can be a little lazy. They don't watch much TV that isn't on HBO, Netflix, Amazon, NBC. So like, and I guess Apple TV Plus now. So that's, I have some reservations about Judith Light, but I'm going to go with her. I feel like it's time. It's time. She's been nominated, twice, I think, for American Horror Story, I think, and Transparent, and never nominated for Who's the Boss. Like, this is Angela. This is Angela from Who's the Boss, man. Like, come on, it's my childhood. I think she should take it out, and she's so good in that episode. Opposite.
So this is her 5th. I just looked up. This is her 5th nomination. Ugly Betty, 2 for Transparent, and then American Crime Story.
That's
plus
the one.
Poker Face is 5th. Yeah.
Wow, it's time. It's really time. But if it's not going to be her and it's not going to be Taraji P. Henson, what do you think? Because I mean, I don't know about Quinta Brunson. I'm feeling like it could be a Becky Ann Baker situation. Yeah.
I have Becky in 5th place, which is way too low because she's been working forever in this industry. She plays Jason Sudeikis's mother, another mother character. And that episode, I think it was called Mom City, was one of their most beloved episodes this year, and she killed it. I think the one that maybe won't win is Sarah Niles, because her character was hardly in it. It was kind of like a cameo. She was always on Zoom talking to Ted. And again, it wasn't very impactful this year. But if Ted Lasso comes back in some form, I do want to see more of Sarah Niles. I love her character. Harriet Walter, another mother. What's going on? All these mothers nominated. She plays Hannah Waddingham's mother. I mean, it's possible, but I do think it's between Taraji and Judith. With me, maybe you're right. Becky could be the third choice. Quinta, I mean, Quinta had some laugh out loud moments on SNL, but is SNL still as popular as it used to be? I mean, I guess so. It won last year in the series race, so I could be wrong.
Yeah. I don't know, like, no disrespect to Sarah Niles at all. Love her, love the character, but I was really puzzled about the nomination. I feel like she wasn't really in the show, didn't really make a lot of an impact this time. They obviously, meaning the Emmy voters, really love her because she was in supporting last time, which was definitely deserved. This time, I feel like they just brought her back because they love the character, and she, she does make some impact with Ted and his anxiety and that storyline, but I just feel like we probably could have made more room in here for someone else. I'm not really can't think at the top of my head who missed out here, but someone from
I have the list. I have the list of
let me
snubs.
know.
Shirley MacLaine, Only Murders; Cherry Jones, Poker Face; Io Adebari, Abbott Elementary; Jane Lynch, Only Murders; Molly Shannon, SNL. That would have been a good one.
Yeah, yes, that would have been a really and Essa Peter Murkison from Poker Face. So many great actors from that show. So yeah, look, good on you, Sarah. You made it in. You got it. So no disrespect, no complaining from me. One final category that we're going to talk about is Guest Actor in a Comedy Series. There's actually more than 2 shows nominated in this one. This one seems like a more traditional Emmy category. Marcus, would you like to talk us through who the nominees?
Yes, I think okay, so we have 2 from Ted Lasso. We have Sam Richardson. No, sorry, just the one from Ted Lasso. We have 2 from The Bear, John Bernthal and Oliver Platt, and then Pedro Pascal, SNL; Nathan Lane, last year's winner, Only Murders in the Building; and Luke Kirby, who won a few years ago for The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. So a lot of people at Gold Derby are starting to switch over to John Bernthal because of his role and impact in season 2 of The Bear. But remember, he's nominated for season 1, where he hardly appeared. So that's why I'm not going to predict him. I realize Margot Martindale has done this for basically a cameo, but that was very rare. I feel like usually these guest categories go for basically supporting people who are in few enough episodes to go guest. So I mean, Sam Richardson's possible, Pedro Pascal's possible. I don't really see a front runner here, and I'm curious who you're predicting. I am picking Pedro at the moment, but you could sway me. I mean, Pedro has 3 nominations this year, so they clearly love him. This is the year of Pedro Pascal. So I could see it, but I don't know. What do you think? Who do you have?
I want to I wish I could get a little clip of, this is so random, of Penelope Cruz at the Oscars a few years ago when she screamed out Pedro when Pedro Almodovar won the Oscars, just like as a little meme, because I feel like this is Pedro all the way. This is where they're going to award him, and I'm sounding super confident. I'm not, because as you say, this is a really open category, and Nathan Lane could certainly win it again, as he would be such a deserving once again to take it out. John Bernthal, you're right, he's in one scene really. I think it's maybe 2 scenes, but it's flashbacks, and impactful, but I don't know if that's necessarily enough to win. Luke Kirby, always so good in The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, but already won, like Nathan Lane. And as you say, and then Oliver Platt is great in The Bear, especially the episode where Carmi's at that birthday party. And that's where it could happen for him. And Sam Richardson, I have a bit of a bias because I just really dislike the character. He's so good as this character, but he's so mean. he's so mean to Sam Obisanya.
But it's an over the top mean. It's a funny mean. And I mean, in these guest categories, they often do go for the funny one. So, I mean, Pedro's obviously funny. Remember when he starts cracking up in the Lisa from Temecula sketch?
Oh, far out. That kills me.
Sam Richardson is funny, but John Bernthal, Nathan Lane, Luke Kirby, Oliver Platt, these are not laugh out loud performances. So
No.
if you're going based on funny, I think it'd be Sam or Pedro.
Yeah. It would be so cool to see Sam Richardson win an Emmy, to be honest. He's been really hitting it out of the park lately, the last few years, kind of under the radar a little. But here he is. That could be a dark horse, actually, and it's the only Ted Lasso nominee.
Yeah.
I may decide to put him in front. That's a good one.
I like this thought. I have him in second right now, so I mean, I'm almost there with you. Maybe I may switch him to first. Who
I've
knows?
just got to get it out of my mind. Stop defending Sam Obisanya because I love that character. Just stop it and just look at it objectively. Okay, so that's what I'll start thinking. But at the moment, I've got Pedro, but I feel like Pedro Pascal just made me laugh so much. But he wasn't really acting. It was that List from Temecula skit when the table was wobbling, and he's just breaking.
Fully broke character. That was Pedro Pascal. That was not a character.
No.
He was being himself.
And breaking character is not something that I think we should be giving Emmys for, but nothing made me laugh more than that sketch. And he's so adorable in, like, you know, it's his moment. Like, if you go on TikTok, it's just all Pedro. Like, the people love the guy. And
this is the year of Pedro Pascal. Yeah,
it's definitely we're living in Pedro's world. We're just lucky to be living in his world.
Do you know who was snubbed in this category?
Dude, tell me.
I would be predicting Steve Martin and Martin Short if they were nominated. I think 100% I would be having them at number one, and I'm quite shocked still months later that they didn't make it in. And then Leslie Odom Jr. for Abbott Elementary, Adrian Brody for Poker Face. People thought they could get in, those people. And then Dave Chappelle for SNL too didn't make it.
Wow. You know, normally pre-nominations, if I see Dave Chappelle, I'm like, just put him in. Because normally he will just take it, you know, he'll take the nomination, but not this time, which is a shame for him. All right. Well, that was very useful, Marcus. Thank you for your insight as usual.
Yeah.
I feel like we just need to wait and see. We've got plenty of time until we know who wins. But in the meantime, everybody stick with Gold Derby. You know why. But I'll just tell you anyway, because we have the best coverage of awards. Everything you could possibly think of, we've covered it. We've got odds, we've got predictions, we've got articles, blog items, we've got interviews, slugfests. What, am I missing anything? I don't think so. Look,
that's it. Yeah.
If you want
named
more
it
than
all.
that, I can't help you. So
we'll find out the winners January 6th and 7th, the Creative Arts Emmys, January 15th, the primetime ceremony, unless it gets pushed back again, which I guess is possible.
If the actors and the writers can strike a deal with the producers and the studios, then we're winning. If not, then more power to them. They need to hold the line, and we will just be patient. We'll wait. We have plenty of things to do and talk about while we wait. I'm so looking forward to it, Marcus. And in the meantime, everybody, see you next time. Thanks for joining us.